Alright, let's talk a little bit about texture sets and shader instancing. So basically what we have is all of these pieces of my body over here are using the main shader, and the main shader over here, this instance name main shader, is using the Pbr metal roughness. However, that makes sense for everything on her except for her arms. I don't want that using a metal roughness. I want to use that with a subsurface scattering shader if I can. So what I need to do is go over here to the arms texture set and select that, and click the main shader button and do new shader instance. And now under the viewer settings, you're going to see we have an instance name, main shader copy. Main shader copy here. If I give this a new name, let's call it skin. That'll give the arms shader group, the texture set, a skin shader. And if I choose this Pbr dropdown, I can actually go in here and select the Pbr SSS shader. Now probably you don't have that in there, so you need to go to substance share. And by the way, if you go to meshes and the GDC female in here, this is the mesh I'm using right here, so you can follow along. If you go to shaders, you're going to see that there's a subsurface scattering shader in here. You can download that, and you're going to want to throw that into your document substance painter shelf shaders, put the GLSL files in there, restart painter I think, and then go over here to your shader drop down and you'll see that those will pop up. So if you choose SSS and scroll down, you're going to see we have a couple different options in here. So if we turn our subdermal color to a red, and then we pass this light around, you're going to see it's starting to glow in some of these subsurface areas in here. Now it's not being controlled by anything. If you turn on Transmissive Map, that'll actually plug in your, underneath the textures, we have a thickness map, and that'll actually be over here in your texture set settings. If you have a thickness map plugged in, that'll go ahead and drive where that subsurface scattering shows up. So you can change your subdermal color, turn on Transmissive Map, and use an SSS shader as opposed to a Pbr metal and roughness. Now, of course, anything in here that you want to have a different shader, just go ahead and do the exact same steps. There's some really cool shaders in here. In fact, while we're talking about it, let's go ahead and do some of those. So with our skin selected, I'm going to do a new fill layer. And by the way, I'm just kind of doing what Wes already did. So if you go to the Allegorithmic YouTube website, you can actually listen to Wes talk to all this. But I figured while I was here talking about stuff, I might as well talk about it. Wes can't have all the fun. So let's talk about some new shaders that are in here. And these ones you should have by default if you got the new painter, which this one is 1.7.1. And instead of Pbr SSS, let's go ahead and choose this first one here, which is the Pbr Car Paint. So if you select that one and zoom in, you're going to see not a whole lot has changed on the arm here, and that's because Car Paint requires that you have your metallic turned all the way up to 1 in order for this shader to behave correctly. If you turn it down to 0, anything that's underlying under the shader that's not metallic is just going to behave like a regular Pbr metal roughness. So crank your metallic up, and if you want to, go ahead and give it a new base color. Let's go ahead and give it, I don't know, a reddish color here. And if we scroll down, you're going to see a lot of cool things you can play with here. So you have a Flakes Texture. So if you take this Flakes scale and scale this up and down, if you scale it way down, you can see the metal Flakes texture that it's using in here. So we'll scale this up just a bit, give it that little car paint fleck. The flake color, you can go through here and change what color the flakes are. There's a secondary paint color and a tertiary paint color. So you, by playing around with these values, you can get some really, really cool paint options here, like a car paint options here. And of course, underneath that, you can go ahead and change your base color, as well as how rough it is. And of course, if you drop your metallic down, it's going to just behave more like a Pbr metal roughness. And then you turn that metallic all the way up to take full advantage of this Pbr Car Paint shader. And while we're digging around in here, let's go ahead and choose the next one down, which is, oh, here it is, this Pbr Velvet. So go ahead and select that, and this will give you some velvet options. Go ahead and crank that color intensity down. And I don't want a metallic velvet, so I'm going to drop that all the way to 0. And I don't want super shiny velvet, so I'm going to go ahead and broaden that spec out a little bit by cranking up the roughness towards white. Now in here, you're going to have fiber scale, sheen, and I'm going to go ahead and crank that sheen up, and I'm going to pass this light around. I'm holding down shift and right mouse, dragging that light around here. You can do variation on your velvet, and you can do edginess. So you can, by playing with these things, you can get a very nice velvet coated look on your object here. So go ahead and play around with those. That's a pretty cool shader. And as more things become available on Substance Share, you can go ahead and download those. And again, the process is just download them, throw them into your document, Substance Painter Shell Shaders, and then restart Painter if you already had it open, and then go into your shaders here and just plug them in.